Welcome to Blossoming Brains, where we explore the marvelous landscape between your ears, the living, learning, ever-changing organ that makes you, you. I'm your host, Dr. Vicki Draeger. I'm a mother of 5, and for more than 30 years, I've had the extraordinary privilege of teaching science from the wide-eyed wonder of preschoolers to the curious drive of graduate students. Along the way, I've become convinced that understanding how our brains actually work isn't just fascinating, it's transformational. Because when you understand how your brain learns, you can grow it for life. So imagine standing in a museum of myths about the human brain. Ancient rumor, pop psychology, movie cliches, all dusted off and displayed like artifacts of a time when we were guessing at the brain's mysteries. But some of those myths, while they're charming, others have quietly led us back and held us from reaching our potential. Today, we're wandering through that museum together, my curious friends, to bust a few of the biggest misconceptions about how our brains work. And by the end, I want you to walk away not just a myth buster yourself, but with a few tangible steps to help your brain stay healthy, flexible, and eager to learn for the rest of your life. Let's start with one of the heaviest skeletons in the museum's closet, a myth that refuses to die no matter how many neuroscientists roll their eyes. If I had $1 for every time a movie narrator whispered this line dramatically, I could fund my own neuroscience lab. The myth is we only use 10% of our brains. The idea that we only use 1/10 of our brain sounds tantalizing, doesn't it? It's as if there's a secret vault of untapped genius just waiting for us to unleash it. There is not a secret vault of untapped genius waiting for some motivation coach key to unlock. But here's the truth. You're using virtually all of your brain all of the time. Even as you listen to this podcast, your auditory cortex is decoding sound waves. Your frontal lobes are analyzing meaning. Your occipital lobe is picturing the ideas I describe, and your cerebellum is helping you balance if you're walking or driving. So the brain is like a city at night. Some neighborhoods light up more brightly depending on the activity, but every district has power humming through it. Functional MRI studies at places like the University of Oxford show that even simple tasks like reading a word or sipping coffee activate wide networks across both hemispheres. Nothing in that image is sitting idly by. So why does this myth live on? Probably because it tells a flattering story. We like the idea of hidden potential, but the real magic isn't in unlocking some unused corner. It's in understanding how the connections between areas strengthen with youth, with learning, and with curiosity. You don't need secret access. You need deliberate practice. The myth of 10% undersells the brilliance already buzzing in your head. Now, here's another crowd favorite. The idea that logical people are left-brained and creative ones are right-brained. You might have seen the t-shirts. You might have taken the quizzes. Maybe you were told in school that you were a right-brain learner. But this tidy division doesn't hold up under neuroscience scrutiny. While certain functions tend to be concentrated more on one side than the other, things like language on the left and spatial awareness on the right, Both hemispheres are in constant conversation. If the brain were a duet, the melody and the harmony switch back and forth dozens of times a second. So think of cooking dinner. Your left hemisphere reads the recipe, calculates measurements, and sequences steps. Your right hemisphere pictures the final dish, judges colors and textures, and recognizes your partner's smile when they taste it. So you can't make spaghetti with just one side of your brain singing. Split brain studies in the mid-20th century, like the famous work of Roger Sperry, revealed hemispheric specialization, yes. But later imaging showed the brain quickly recruits the other side for complex real-world tasks. Creativity and logic are married partners, not divorced neighbors. When we call ourselves right-brained or left-brained, we underestimate the cooperative genius that makes us whole. It makes us entire. A better question is not, which side do I use? But how can I help both sides collaborate even better? Now, another myth that we're going to debunk today is that brain cells can't regenerate. This one sounds grim. The notion that after childhood, your brain is like a tree that stopped growing new branches. People believed for decades that once a neuron died, that was it. No replacements, no repair. But in the late 1990s, scientists like Elizabeth Gould and Fred Gage rocked the neuroscience world with evidence of neurogenesis, the birth of new neurons in adult brains. Places like the hippocampus, our memory and learning hub, continually grow new cells throughout life. It's like discovering your favorite old forest, which sprouts fresh saplings each spring. And just like a forest, this growth depends on the environment. Stress, sleep deprivation, and lack of novelty can stunt neurogenesis, while curiosity and exercise and social connection fertilize it. In one study from the Salk Institute, mice that ran on exercise wheels showed a sharp increase in new hippocampal neurons compared with sedentary ones. Movement literally grew their memory centers. Humans show the same pattern. A brisk walk can be fertilizer for your brain. So when someone says that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, they're not just being pessimistic, they're wrong at the cellular level. Your brain keeps learning as long as you keep living, providing you feed it the right experiences. Another myth is that the brain works like a camera. If only. Life would be so much easier if we could play back memories like high-definition footage that was completely accurate. But human memory isn't a recording device. It's a reconstruction project. Each time you recall a memory, your brain rebuilds it from scattered pieces stored across the cortex. So sensory details, emotions, context, it stitches them into a replay that feels complete, but it may have small edits, which is why your memories aren't perfect. It's like assembling a jigsaw puzzle from memory instead of by looking at a photograph. Most of the pieces fit just fine, but sometimes you misplace a color or add something that wasn't there. Psychologist Elizabeth Loftus famously demonstrated the misinformation effect, showing how suggestive questions can alter witness memories. This creates false memories. This isn't a flaw, it's a feature of a flexible system designed to adapt, not archive. Your hippocampus, your amygdala, and prefrontal cortex collaborate to reshape memory in light of new knowledge. That flexibility helps us learn from mistakes, empathize with others, and imagine the future. All our functions evolution valued more than perfect recall. So the next time you and a sibling remember a childhood event differently, don't assume one of you is wrong. Your brain simply filed slightly different edits of the same scene. Memory is more museum exhibit than photograph. It's curated, rearranged, sometimes repainted, but always illuminating. Another myth is that we have 5 senses. We know touch, taste, smell, sight, hearing. Those are the classic 5 that we learned in kindergarten. Yet your brain quietly manages many more. Scientists count at least 9 or even 20 distinct sensory systems. You have a vestibular sense of balance. You have proprioception, which is your body's built-in sense of where its parts are and how they're moving without needing to look at them. This is why you don't have to look. You can just reach out and get your cup of coffee without looking at it. You have a sense of temperature, pain, time, even internal motion like heartbeat or hunger. Each of these channels delivers data that your brain weaves into a seamless picture of you moving through the world. Imagine your brain as a conductor leading a symphony of senses. Sight might play the violins, hearing the brass, but under them hum the deep cellos of proprioception, the flutes of temperature, the timpani of gut feelings. Without them, the music of reality would sound thin and confusing. Understanding that you're more than your 5 senses emphasizes how remarkable the brain's integration really is. When you practice balance exercises, or pay attention to your breathing when doing mindfulness, or even when you eat with attention, you're tuning into these subtler senses and sharpening the orchestra. Then there's the myth that the brain is hardwired. This myth insists that our mental wiring is fixed, like electrical circuits, sealed behind drywall. But today's neuroscience tells a different story, one of incredible adaptability. Your brain is more like a living, blossoming garden than a static machine. With every new experience, the branches, called dendrites, of your neurons extend, retract, and form new connections. This phenomenon is called neuroplasticity. It continues across the lifeline, and you're going to hear it often throughout these podcasts. So, for example, MRI scans of London taxi drivers show enlarged hippocampi, the brain's internal GPS system, due to the fact that they had to memorize the city streets of London. When violinists practice for decades, the area of their sensory cortex controlling the left hand grows more defined. The brain literally reshapes itself in response to how we use it. Neuroplasticity doesn't mean you can instantly master any skill, but it does mean habits. Sculpt biology. Let me repeat that. Habits sculpt biology. Every repeated thought strengthens its circuit, like deepening paths in snow. That's why mental ruts, both helpful and harmful, reinforce with repetition. And the Bible says to keep your thoughts captive, to try to stay mindfully in control of your thoughts so that you try to eliminate those negative thoughts and increase positive thoughts. It's not just mind over matter, it's actually neuroscience. Understanding that your brain is soft-wired, moldable, trainable, responsive, should inspire you to be deliberate about what roads you pave. Your internal landscape grows where your attention flows. Ooh, I like that too. It's kind of an internal rhyme. Your internal landscape grows where your attention flows. I want to ask your brain to do 3 small things that make a big difference. Follow this podcast, like this episode, and subscribe. When you follow, like, and subscribe, your app saves Blossoming Brains for you and reminds you when new episodes come out. Follow so you can find the podcast again. Like so the apps know this episode was valuable. Subscribe so your brain gets a gentle reminder to keep growing with us. So, one more time, for your beautiful, busy brain, follow the podcast, like this episode, and subscribe to Blossoming Brains wherever you're listening or watching. Another myth is that older brains can't learn as well. This is a dangerous myth. I'm sorry, but you can indeed teach an old dog new tricks. This myth is a subtle thief of potential. Many adults believe their capacity to learn new languages, instruments, or ideas fades with age, like an old battery losing charge, and so they won't try new things. Now, it's true that young brains soak up novelty quickly. Infants form synapses at staggering rates. But mature brains bring wisdom, like richer networks, pattern recognition, emotional regulation, perspective. So learning changes form, but not worth. Research from the University of California shows that adults who engage in challenging new skills like photography, quilting, digital design, improve memory and cognitive flexibility compared with peers who stick to passive hobbies, things that they've done for 20 years, just doing the same thing over and over. Doing it over and over, it's really very clear in their mind, but you need something new to really spark those neurons. Scientists call it effortful learning because you have to put a little more effort into it. But it keeps the neural pathways vibrant and communication between brain regions sharp. So think of your brain not as a leaky bucket, but as a seasoned athlete. It might need a little longer to warm up, but once running, it performs with strategy and endurance. So yes, the teenage brain can sprint, but the mature brain can go the marathon. Both are champions of different races. So let's pause a beat here, because when you step back and see all these myths side by side, a clear picture emerges. For so long, we've underestimated the brain. We've treated it like a static machine running mysterious software, when in reality it's a dynamic, rewiring masterpiece. It's more like a rainforest than a robot. Each myth we busted today wasn't just a correction. It was a celebration of that flexibility, complexity, and wonder. The truth is, your brain is always listening, always adapting, always ready for the next chapter of who you're becoming. It loves novelty, movement, conversation, and sleep. It thrives on consistency wrapped in curiosity. And that brings us to our brain-friendly habit, your call to action. This week, try to do one small thing that surprises your neurons. Learn a few phrases in a new language. Something as simple as brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand. Take a different route on your daily walk. Listen to a genre of music that you'd normally skip. Novelty shakes up predictable firing patterns and sparks new neural connections. It's like cross-training for your cortex. Researchers at Duke University found that novelty activates dopamine pathways tied to motivation and memory. In plain terms, your brain loves anything that feels fresh because it associates novelty with growth opportunities. So be curious on purpose. Your brain isn't a warehouse of forgotten potential. It's a vibrant playground that remodels itself every day you use it. Once you start living like that, tuning into the symphony in your senses, nourishing your neurons with movement and learning, that word limit starts feeling like another myth ready to be busted. So, thank you for listening to Blossoming Brains. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a fellow mythbuster who's curious about how their brain truly works. And if you take on the novelty challenge, tell me how it goes. I'd love to celebrate your small, brave experiments in lifelong learning. Because the more we understand our brains, the better we can guide them. Not with superstition, but with science and a healthy dose of wonder. Now, until next week, don't forget to keep learning, keep growing, and keep blossoming.